Good morning, everyone. My name is Dominique Jones, and I pronounce she, her. And I would like to thank everyone for coming out today and listening to me talk, and especially thank you to Virtuous Con for inviting me today. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a designer at Penguin Random House, and I work on fiction and nonfiction adult titles under the imprints of Berkeley, Dutton, Plume, and Tiny Reparations, and I also freelance as well. I'm also the founder of Blk+Brwn Book Designers, where we promote, share, and connect book designers within the publishing industry, as well as have a freelance directory where you can hire illustrators or other creatives. And so today we'll be you guys. I will be talking about 5 things to consider when designing a book cover. My number one rule would be give yourself time. Um, don't be afraid of time. Books really do take a very long time, pretty much almost up to a whole entire year in advance. So just make sure you're not rushing into things because you want things to be perfect and not forced. Another thing that is considered with time is finding the right team, from a cover designer, a marketing agent or manager, the right printer, and everything that all sort of fits into your budget. Another tip would be pretty much time really does count on like the interior and the exterior, and especially the cover, really, because things just don't happen that fast. You have to go through process of things and kind of figure out what works and what doesn't, and making sure things really feel right and, again, not forced. And especially when it comes to hiring an illustrator, things go through rounds of sketches, sensitivity check, color. All of that really does take place. Another tip would be definitely storytelling. Storytelling just brings the whole book to life, not just through its words, but through its physical appearance as well. One thing is that covers are just so different from one another. It can be, one is just photographs, one is just based on illustration, one can just be type driven, and that's okay. It just has to make sure it feels right for the book. Don't limit yourself to the first idea that comes to mind, because sometimes the first idea can be the worst idea and not the best idea, and sometimes it can be the total opposite. But it's really up to the designer, and it's up to you, and it's up to your team to really make sure things feel right and for it, not just because. And definitely it always goes back to like making sure it fits into your budget. A lot of indie covers that I've noticed go straight for like photographs all the time, or like a bunch of collages, which it then puts you in this category away from the book you wanted, and really separates you from like this first time book cover versus the bestseller, or what you see publishers, big publishing houses really go towards. And so like look at what they're doing and kind of implement it in a way that makes it feel not the same, but makes it feel almost like you can put them in a group and you can't choose which one is like the first debut book cover. You know, it's ones that just feel a part of the family, but also they all stick out individually. Another thing is definitely leave room for curiosity. Curiosity is the biggest thing that you want people to gravitate towards when they see your cover, not just like, oh, you're already telling the story off the bat. Because then that makes me not want to pick up a book, because it's like, oh, I can tell off the bat what's going to happen. Another big thing is definitely stick to limiting your typefaces. A lot of covers that aren't the best covers tend to use like thousands of different typefaces for no reason, that really don't feel right for the book, one. And two, it just makes it just look not so great, you know? So definitely stick to like 1 or 2 typefaces, I would recommend. Not everything has to be completely different. Maybe just all sticking to one typeface, and definitely playing with like the weight of things. Things can be light, one thing can be heavy, like a bold. extra bold, it can be italicized. It just playing with that different style rather than a different typeface can definitely make a difference and make it feel completely different and feel right for the book. Another big thing, tip 3, would definitely be finding your audience. That's the biggest thing, that it takes time and you have to really sit down with it. Who's the audience for your book? Is it YA? Is it adult? Is it the sci-fi thrillers? Like, what's your book about? Who's the audience? Who do you want to pick it up? Because we want to see your book grow and we want to see it hit the bestseller, whether it's through Amazon, New York Times, or however it's going to be. We want those numbers to be high. And so definitely choosing your audience is definitely the biggest thing of all. Who they are, what they like, based on gender, age, the topics of the book, where in the bookstore your book would fit with all the other books, because they all have this audience of different audiences that they want to really pick up that book. So you have to figure out, go into a bookstore, understand, like really get a feeling of who's your audience. Yeah, definitely do that. Walk into a bookstore. That's like the biggest thing. I even do that. Walk into a store and see like what books are like popping off the shelves right now and who is gravitating towards what. You know, just get a feel of that. Go to the Barnes and Nobles. A lot of the small book stores definitely have a lot of customers coming in and out. You don't have to spend that long, like 30 minutes or so, just to kind of get your information, you know. Number 4 would definitely be get feedback. And I know I'm not saying like once you get the cover or your first round, automatically like post it to your Instagram story to see what people think. Like, no, like get a behind the scenes team, like your marketing agent or your friends and family who's read the book, and kind of get their insight, because they're going to be the first ones looking at this cover. You've seen it multiple times through stages. So getting another fresh look at it can definitely be very helpful in the long run. And just like the phrase, it takes a village to raise a child, and that child is your book, like literally. And so you want to make sure and take good care of it and make sure it's going out into the world in the best way, shape, and form, and like surviving in this world of many, many books. Just please remember that feedback is key throughout the whole entire phase of the book, until it's basically printed and completed in the bookstore, really. Find the right people you trust, get the information on what you like and what you don't like about it, and really sit with it and marinate before even going towards a decision you're not quite sure on. No maybes or in betweens. It has to be a yes or no, and a strong yes and no, and reasons why. Are the characters right for the book? Does it feel right? Are the audience connecting or disconnecting? What the colors feel like? Is it right for the book? And just really, really sit with that. That's why things take time. Like number 1, time, because it's really crucial to getting this book out in the best way, shape, or form. Number 5 would definitely leave room for mistakes. Mistakes happen, whether it's through color, whether it's through a typo, whether it's through time management, whether it's life. Life happens every 6 months, 3 to 6 months, and it's okay. Like, don't be upset if things don't work out. That's why having this long term of a year really is crucial, because life happens. Maybe you can't get the right pages, or a designer may have a creative block, and that's okay. But understanding to leave room for mistakes is the biggest thing of all. It's hard sometimes to hear that and just like you want to get it out, but don't force it. That's the number 1 thing I would definitely recommend, is don't force it. Most covers honestly don't get approved off the first bat. There are plenty of covers that I created that when you go on my website or see other book designers, they're like, oh, I love that one. I love that one. But it's like, you don't know all the other covers and all the other sketches that I've done that gotten killed in the process, or took 6 months to just do, or it took me so long, 6 months, and then it got killed. And killed means it's pretty much like wasn't approved. In the publishing world, that's what we say, like a killed cover. And that's okay. Like, I don't get upset about it, and I don't get upset if a author works with me and being like, you know, I'm not feeling it, I want to go with someone else. And that's okay. Like, that's why you leave enough room for mistakes, and you leave enough room for yourself to then find and work with that designer to figure out what's the next step. How can we do this? What's missing? Or maybe just take a 2-week break and kind of figure out, you know, where can we go from here? Let's see. Yeah, definitely. And also definitely when it comes to like leaving mistakes for like the printer. Sometimes the printers can be expensive. Sometimes the color just doesn't come out right. You can't print something firsthand and being like, oh, the colors are perfect. Maybe something came out dark. Maybe an effect came out too harsh or too saturated. And you want to make sure like these colors are right. Maybe you have to use a Pantone color for like to make that yellow just pop, or decide, oh, these colors aren't working when I see it again or against another book, or it feels too close to this book in color, or it just doesn't feel right with the color. It's all these things that can really go into play, and you really have to take that into consideration. And the fun part is sometimes you can do special effects and like spot gloss, emboss, deboss, gritty matte, soft matte. There's so many like wild, like foil, so many wild things that you can do that it's really can really change the way your book feels. And so then we have to find the right printer that works for it. And it's a lot to really consider. And I really hope that when you come to wanting to design your book cover, that you really take these steps into consideration. Work with the designer, really understand how you guys can be like, you guys are going to be partners in this. You guys are basically birthing a child together in this book. And you really want to make sure it's perfect. I even want to make sure it's perfect. So I'm pretty sure you want to make sure it's perfect too. And definitely leave room for mistakes. Typos are okay. Sometimes you read a book and you'll see like a little typo, and that's okay. But at the same time, we know next time we don't want that to happen. You need to make sure you have an editor checking everything. A lot of that really has to go into play. You want to make sure your characters are connecting with people. It's a lot to consider. The last tip that I would like to just throw in here out of the other 5 is basically also give credit. Like, give credit to where credit is due. I know it's like easy said than done, or you're like, oh, but it's my book. Also give credit to the designer. Like, we worked really hard. Just to have someone tag me in something, or being like, you know, thank you for this book, a little thank you card or something. It makes me feel like I'm doing something great into the world, you know? And this is my job. This is what I love to do. So just having that little thank you credit or something would be very special. Especially give credit when it comes to licensing photos for your book cover. That is the biggest thing. You don't want someone to bite you in the butt in the end and being like, you used my photo without giving me any credit or the funds for it. So you really want to take that into consideration for sure. And licensing and all this other stuff really it takes time. So you have to wait for them and the budget, and make sure everything fits into your budget too. That's the biggest thing. I understand how hard it is. You're really putting this out here on like a strict budget, and that's okay. And I'm willing to work, and I know other designers are willing to work with you and really help you get into that budget, but also make the best thing possible, not just make something that really just fits into that. And also definitely have fun. Please have fun. This is a fun process. And don't worry too much about it. Like, I want to make this special. You want to make this special. We all want to make this special. So please have fun. Don't stress. Things happen. Life happens. But at the end of the day, your book will be out. Your book will be there. It'll be in the world, kicking ass against all those other book covers. So yeah, that's pretty much my tips. Again, my name is Dominique Jones. Thank you for listening to the 5 tips to consider when you're designing a book cover. And if you would like to collaborate or have any questions, feel free to reach out. My website is dominiquejones.work. That is DOMINIQUEJONES.work, WORK. And you can also find my email address there, my social media. You can find me on Instagram only. I do not have a Twitter. That's too much work. But on Instagram, it's at I am Dominique with 3 E's. So that's at IAMDOMINIQUEE. That's 3 E's. You can pretty much find me if you even just look on my website or just type in Dominique Jones. You can also connect with me through my nonprofit, which is Blk+Brwn Book Designers, that I had mentioned in the beginning. You can find us at bnbbookdesigners.com. You can check out the website, see all the other great book designers, including myself and other designers within children, and just freelancing on the side. You can definitely read our little blogs. You can look at the freelance directory. We have so much more coming up. We're coming up on our first year anniversary. So there's so much great things in store. Events coming soon. Just definitely, if you have any questions or just want to chat, definitely reach out to me. I'm always welcome to that. And so, yeah, thank you so much for listening to me rant about all this stuff. I like to just go straight forward into things. So I hope you grab all that information and your pen and paper together to really just sit down with that. And I'm here for any other questions if you guys have. So throw them in the chat. We would love to chat some more. I know we have pretty much some time left, so definitely let me know. Let's see. Any social medias? Yeah, I mentioned the social media again. I'm gonna also say it again just in case. It's dominiquejones.work. And my Instagram is at I am Dominique with 3 E's. Okay, my journey into publishing. It's a blessing in disguise, I would like to say. I talk about it so much sometimes I literally forget. But my journey started as pretty much not even realizing it was a thing. And so it was my senior year, and pretty much I had my senior show all popping up. I didn't even apply to anything during that time because I was so stressed out about my project and making sure that project was perfect. Someone from Penguin came to my senior show and was just looking and talking and stuff. And I mean, you're talking to anyone, so you're not going to know where they're from. The day after, I got an email from someone saying, I saw your project. It was great. I think you should apply to this, internship. I was like, okay, I have nothing to lose because I didn't apply to anything during that time. Took the chance and didn't think anything of it. And then all of a sudden, I wind up getting the internship, which is the summer of 2018. And during that time, it was mind blowing. My whole world had changed. I never knew how fun it could be being in publishing. I was just literally sitting in the lobby and waiting to go up and being had this voice over me, and God was just telling me this is it. You don't have to look anymore. This is your home. And it felt like home. And ever since then, it was from internship, part-time to full-time. And I make 3 years in September, which is mind-blowing of how time just moves so fast. And every day it's always something new, whether it's a mistake I made, something else that I'm learning that I didn't even know how to do, whether it's Photoshop skills, InDesign skills, or just learning the process of how publishing works. And I'm forever grateful to having the most amazing team, art directors and inspirational people around me to work with, and just gravitating so much from getting so much from them. It's so amazing. I'm blessed, and I'm always willing to just give back as much, and creating Blk+Brwn Book Designers because of that purpose of only seeing me being the only Black person on the team. And so being able to have this connection with other designers out there, it's so crucial. And to help creating our Black stories and telling them through our Black voices, it's so needed. And so that's pretty much my journey and where I'm continuing to grow and in the future become an art director and really just make as many books as I can, make as many people happy as I can, making myself happy, creating this of what I love to do. It's really important for me as much as it's important for you as an author and getting your work out there. Let's see. Okay, let me also give my social media and stuff, so that you guys can have it, because I know it's sometimes hard to find people. Okay. Let's see what else I can talk about. Oh, I guess my favorite book cover, the story behind one of my favorite book covers, would be the most recent, which is called Blk+Brwn Home. There's an interview about me talking about it a few times on my website. You can check that out under like about me. But long story short, a year before I worked on that book cover, I wind up I take photography classes on the side. And so I went to this art gallery to look at it and just like look around, see what the artists out there. And I fell in love with this one photo. And I was like, this is so beautiful. Spoke about it during my class meetup. And it was just like, took the photo on my phone and kept it. And then a year later, I get an email from our director being like, hey, like we have this book called Blk+Brwn Home. And the author's name is Jasmine Mans. Apologies. And she's like amazing on Instagram. Like on Instagram, YouTube, check her out. Like she's an amazing poet. Mind blowing. You will be literally blown away. You've probably seen her already and you don't even realize it's her. But she is like so amazing. And so I was like, yeah, sure, totally. Like I would totally take on this project. And wind up getting an email. They're like, oh yeah, one more thing. Like there's this photo that they want to use. You already know what happened. They used the same exact photo from the one I took at the art gallery. And I was like, this is a full circle moment for me. And it was like so mind blowing to realize like, wow, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is where I'm going to be for the rest of my life, probably, because this is just like so breathtaking. And it was just so much reassurance of being like, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is the job. I really don't have to look anymore. Like this is my journey starts from here, and so on and so forth. And that book will always be my favorite book cover of all, because it's just so meaningful to me, and just the story behind it. And that cover, every time I look at it, just reassures me. It's a great book. Definitely pick it up. And I'm not just saying it because I did the cover. Definitely pick it up. It's so beautiful. It's well written. All the poetry, her words will literally take you off the edge of your seat. It's just so good. My other favorite book cover would be The Hierarchies. And that one was just like, I guess having that mindset as a creative, sometimes you hit that creative block. But with that one, it was just like constant flowing of so many great ideas. And that's what happens when you create like a good storyline. Like it's so easy. Well, I wouldn't say easy in an easy way, but it's so breathtaking for a designer to just like, wow, like I have so many ideas to gravitate towards with these words that bring up so many visuals that are very helpful. And that's what I also write down in my description when we have conversations as working together. It's basically write down things that come to mind when you even talk about your book. 3 words that stick out, because those are the things that really can help visually gravitate, like, oh, what about these colors? What about this to be put on the cover? The characters, the scene. It's very helpful to really get nitty gritty with your story to really help design the cover. But definitely Blk+Brwn Home by Jasmine Mans and The Hierarchies by Ross Anderson. That was her debut book as well. And that's definitely something that those 2 are definitely my favorites. Outside in, looking from the outside in, and it seems that Black creative literature is growing in the US. What advice would you give for Black UK writers to break into the US market? Ooh, that's a good question. There's a lot, like the US and the UK are so different. Like not even like, the obvious, but, and I say that because like as a creative, you realize like the covers are so different. Like our creative minds are so like, our interest in creativity, it's so different. And so I'm working with a UK artist now, author now. And she's like, her work is amazing. And it's just so mind-blowing to just see like the writing styles and everything. I would say definitely take a leap of faith. Try to apply to like competitions in the US or the UK. The UK writers should break into the US. Yeah, just definitely apply to contests. I'm not really don't know much of like the writing process of it, but I know there's a lot of writing competitions out there that I hear. I'm a creative, so I mainly see so much of the creative side. But definitely look at what we're doing in the US. A lot of sometimes there's trends that you can follow. A lot of like rom-coms do like illustration. There's always that, I guess, the cover styles. Really look at that. Like if you type in Google, because I do this all the time, type in Google the US cover versus the US cover, and it's mind-blowing. Some of them are very similar and some of them are very different. Sometimes it's a pickup of whichever does like the best cover, or pretty much which the artist is, I mean the author is really interested in and wants to pick that up. But it's really hard. I think the market style really goes down to sales and the numbers of what people gravitate towards. And everyone has their own interest. Sometimes people can look at a cover and be like, oh, I love this cover. And somebody else can look at it and be like, this is ugly. I don't like it. I don't like the colors. They should have did this. And that's okay. Like people have their own opinions and that's fine. But yeah, definitely I would say look that up and see what covers stand out the most. And basically at the end of the day, what is your interest? What fits you? What's for you will be for you. What your design is, it's your style. You're an author, and pretty much your book is almost like your brand. This is like every book you make will then become part of your brand, who you are. Sometimes the color styles. If you look up, what's his name? I believe it's Stephen King, who does like, I think it's It, correct? And like his books have like this specific horror style. Like that's him. He's known for those type of books. He's known for that type of style. And so like that's his brand. You can't ever think of something like a Stephen King and be like, oh, like romance. That just doesn't fit because that his books are his brand. And so you're an author, your books are your brand. And not to say like you have to stick in this one realm, but once you step foot in one, it's almost hard to get out of it. Like if you think of singers, they have this one style, and so when they break out into something, people are always surprised, like, oh, they're doing acting now, they can't act, or they can't sing, or this and that, like all these other, opinions that sometimes don't matter. And your book is your brand at the end of the day. And so you have to really definitely figure out what your brand is for sure. That really helps you figure out what your book is. Like what's your book about, what's your book gonna look like. That's very important for sure. But definitely I think to answer that last question again, it's basically I think sales and looking at what each of us in the US or in the UK are doing that really stands out to you. And what's trending, because you can look at a trend, but the thing with trends is like it's kind of bad in the long run because it's not going to be very appealing in the end. It has to have this little twist of something that makes it stick out from 2020, 2021 all the way until however. And sometimes there's reprints. That's a fun thing too, is like you can design a book now and then 5 years later, 10 years later, you can do a reprint. And it could be an updated cover. Sometimes you see these books have like a different cover from hardcover, paperback, mass market, export. It's because like the numbers. They really figure out what sells. And the physical appearance, we judge a book by its cover, even though we say don't judge a book by its cover, we do. And so you're judging it based on like, I think it didn't sell because of the numbers and maybe because of the outlook of it, the colors, maybe the cover wasn't the best, the colors were wrong, the type was wrong, the audience didn't really fit with it, you didn't gravitate towards the right audience. And so you can always do reprints. Just remember also, fun fact, don't overprint things because sometimes that's out of your budget, one. And two, sometimes you just want to see how things roll. It's good to hit that, out of sold out, button, but don't overprint things. Sometimes you want to see how the first number rolls and before you even just overprint, So let's see. Is there any other questions? I know we're almost about crunch time. We've got like 10 more minutes or so. Let's see. Inspiration. Ooh, okay. I used to, man, inspiration is everywhere. And I feel like a lot of people, like, it's a common thing for creators being like, oh, inspiration is everywhere, but it's sort of true. Um, Pinterest is my number one best friend. I'm always on Pinterest, finding out what do I like, what do I gravitate towards. I love, and I missed doing it before, before COVID and everything, but going to like bookstores. Now I'm always on like different companies' websites. I'm on my own company's, my own job, website, or my other publisher house's website, or Instagram. Definitely, it's like, what do they do now? Who posted up the best like cover? Who won the best cover award for us designers? Or going towards just not even like staying away from social media, staying away from Instagram, and sometimes just reading a book that's outside of my work schedule, and just really sitting down with it and just thinking creatively, or just taking a piece of paper and pen and just writing or drawing things out. It's just basically almost having that childlike mindset and just letting things at ease can just help find inspiration. Sometimes I just play my favorite playlist, which is the 80s and the 90s, and just play a bunch of that and just like jam to it and just see what flows. Having conversations with friends can be very, very helpful for sure. Um, or just hanging out and doing whatever that's not work related can definitely spark an idea. What else? Let's see. Yeah, doing things that I love, watching movies. Inspiration can be from anywhere, and it's a great thing. I feel like it's great to have an inspiration that you can find anywhere, rather than having this only one little box that you stick into and only find inspiration from there, because after a while it's gonna get old. Um, so definitely find inspiration from wherever or anything at all. Sometimes really brainstorming together with a team can definitely help find inspiration from certain things. Definitely going to museums, watching movies. Yeah, pretty much everywhere is where I can find inspiration. Um, yeah, I say, oh, one question I would ask myself is, most people probably would ask is, has there ever been a cover that I designed that I don't like? And I've got asked that a very few times. So I figured like giving you guys the answer would be great. That's not true. Almost every cover that I designed, there's something about it that I may not be my type of style of book, but it's always beautifully written. You read these books from editors that just become so like wow, like reading other people's reading styles is very interesting. And so, not to say like I don't like the book sometimes, sometimes it might not just be my style, but at the end of the day, that might be the very ending that I'm like, oh, I love that ending, or I love that beginning. So there's something about it that I like. It's like trying new foods. It might not be your taste buds, but it might be something you might want to try again, and that's okay. So, little fun question. People you look up to. Ooh, I used to have a list of people that I look up to, honestly. And that was a big one. It was like Jessica Walsh. She's like an amazing designer and has her own design studio. She was like amazing with inspiration for me back then in college. Um, Now it's just a lot of my art directors that I work with now, or in the industry that I work in. There's, of course, my own art directors like Jason Boer, Christopher Lynn. Um, they're like amazing art directors, and like I'm grateful for them, and their like work is amazing. Who else? There's so many like on the top of my head that I can't like get out, but they're like there's a lot of people. But sometimes I try not to have like the people I look up to really just like they're my inspiration, but I like to step away and make my own, be my own person that I look up to, and just look up to myself, you know. What would you consider a must buy in books? I'm assuming. I guess the must buy right now, hot off the shelf, is let's see, what's the name of the book? The Other Black Girl. That is like the most amazing book that I've ever read, and that's outside of work. That book is amazing. And if you haven't already seen it, it's like all over. It was on like GMA the other day, I think. It's so amazing. It's about a girl in publishing, and basically like these like twists and turns and finding the other Black girl that she's new into the company, and mind blowing. Just read it. It's so much. I don't want to like give stuff away because I will give stuff away, but just definitely pick it up. It's called The Other Black Girl. Got the author's name. Starts with a Z. No, yeah, just The Other Black Girl. Type it up on Google. You'll definitely find it. It's a beautiful cover at that. What's your typical time frame in completing a cover concept to the end? Ooh, okay. So in our regular day-to-day job, we get at least, it depends. We get, let's say, for example, 15 covers, 12 covers to work on. And so we then distribute it against the team. And so then we have our own agendas for ourselves. And as a team, to make sure we show these covers on these specific days. And we have a meeting like once a week. And we prep that up. And maybe I might have 5 covers to work on, 2 covers to work on for that season. It really depends on what we get per and really distribute out. Sometimes I'm working on one myself, but also like hiring a freelancer to help. And so we usually, the normal time frame is basically 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks, but 2 weeks is basically the mark that a lot of, I like the typical time frame you get to design a book cover. And that's not 2 weeks to be like, oh, that's once we show the first couple of sketches, it's good. It's like, no, that's impossible. Or it's not impossible, but sometimes that doesn't happen. And sometimes there's room, you have to remember, leave room for mistakes, leave room for feedback. And so we have that time frame stretch. Sometimes it can take up to 6 months to get a cover approved, or it can take 4 months, it can take a month. Maybe the first round can be approved off the bat. It really depends on the cover and the style and the feedback and everything that I mentioned, time, feedback, leaving room for error. All of that really takes place into designing. But to answer your question again, it's really like 2 weeks for sure. And I'm not a fast reader, so I like to take my time and really nitpick at little ideas and highlight things and make a lot of notes. So time to consider. Sometimes with freelance projects, I like to give myself 3 weeks because remember, I'm freelancing on the side and I have a 9 to 5. I also need to make a living myself. And so giving myself 3 weeks sometimes is very helpful to kind of make sure I sit down with the idea and really, help you get your story out as much as possible. So we have a few more minutes, guys. Anybody else have any other questions? Let's see. I guess before I forget, you guys can definitely check out my website, Instagram. I don't try not to go on Instagram as much, but if you have any questions, definitely email me through my website. What's my favorite part of the process? Oh my gosh, my favorite part of the process would be the cover, but my favorite is like the very end, during the production stage, because that's when we can figure out if we're going to do special effects. And the special effects are fun, but sometimes it can be a headache because you're trying to make sure like everything is perfect when it like matches everything. If you're doing like spot gloss, if you're doing a 5th color, which is basically another color outside of CMYK. That's a whole other conversation that can probably take a while. But yeah, definitely the cover and like the very final stage, which is like designing the jacket and getting that set to production. Those 2 are my very favorites because it's very freeing and it's almost like an ease process, but also that anticipation because it's almost done to be like out into the world. So yeah, that's definitely my favorite part of the process. Okay, so we have a few more minutes, guys. Does anybody have any other last minute questions before we pretty much close it out? It was great talking with you guys. I would love to hear from you guys, whether not in my email, not to lobby much DM, but I'm pretty sure some people's gonna DM me. But I would love to hear your questions, your thoughts. If you want like more in-depth conversation, that would be great. You can schedule something, and just like chat. And hopefully we get to work together sometime in the future. Right now I am booked for a while. I would say up until September for freelance. yeah, up until September. But if you have time and you just want to like chat and like book in advance, that's definitely great. And we can have that discussion um, privately through email and maybe like a Zoom call. So let's see, give a couple more seconds. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for everything. It was great meeting you all. Even though not seeing you guys virtually, I hope you guys have like an amazing time at this like dope event. Enjoy your Juneteenth. It's like very nice outside. I'm based in Brooklyn, New York. So definitely like enjoy the weather if you are too. Um, so yeah, thank you so much, and I would love to chat soon. Um, yeah. So thank you guys. Bye.